Good afternoon and welcome to Around the Tiers. I'm Steph Stoiko, and it's time to announce today's Southern Tier Tuesdays winner. Congratulations to For the Love of Finn. The nonprofit is being awarded $2,000 from Upstate Shredding and Adam and Clover Weitzman. And joining me now in studio is For the Love of Finn organization president Lori Wheeler. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon, and congratulations on winning Southern Tier Tuesdays. Can you tell us a little bit more about your organization?
I would love to. So we started in 2018. Our very first year we had one animal. So what we do is wildlife rehabilitation. So we take in native species that are injured, that are orphaned or displaced, and we rehabilitate them until they're able to go back into the world. So since 2018, we've been able to rehabilitate over 370 animals. So it's very exciting for us.
And tell us about the name of your organization, For the Love of Finn. Where did this name stem from?
So how I ended up getting into this I worked for a couple of years for a program that did educational programs with native species. And one of the species that I happened to have the privilege of socializing was a Virginia opossum, who is on my cup. And his name was Huckleberry Finn because I'm sorry, I can't think of what it was. At any rate, so we called him Finn. And so that was, he ended up passing away. And I kind of knew when I, went through that whole process with him that I wanted to take this a step further, and that I wanted to be able to help an animal to get released back into the wild. So that is why it is named For the Love of Finn.
And what types of animals do you now rescue and help rehabilitate?
Great question. So the animals that I take in are what we call small mammals. So kind of think anything from a bobcat down. That's the kind of animals that I take in. So your Virginia opossums, your foxes, things of that, squirrels, cottontails, things like that.
And where do you find these animals? Is this, do people call you? Do you find them on your own? How does that work?
Great question. So people usually call us. They see something's wrong, or they have a tree cut down and, a nest of squirrels falls out and they don't know what to do with it. So that's usually what happens. Generally speaking, I don't find anybody on my own. It's usually from the community reaching out and saying, that they have a need, they have a problem, or what can I do with this situation. So.
And tell us a little bit about the rehabilitation process, maybe how long it is, what kind of things go into that.
No, great questions. So with each species, it varies, and it depends on how well the animal is healing. So again, it's always different. But we'll use a gray squirrel, because we're all familiar with gray squirrels. So if a gray squirrel comes in as a baby, it's going to stay with me for 16 weeks. And that's a long commitment. I just wanted to tell you, that's 4 months. And so it stays with us, it gets fed, it gets cared for, and on top of that, we have to make sure that it gets what I call wild it back up, because if I'm feeding an animal, there's a lot of human contact, but we don't want to release an animal who's used to humans and thinks they're okay, because that'll scare the community, and it's not safe for the animal. So we have to work on that whole process and making sure they know what to eat once they are released. So there's quite a process to it, but at any rate, that's kind of the short version.
And how many animals do you typically care for at a time?
As many as I can. So that can vary. Last year we had 190 animals in. So at any given season, we're balancing kind of, usually you think of seasons as spring and fall as when those babies tend to come in the most. So you can kind of figure that we're balancing just under 100 animals each time. So it's very busy. I just recently became a Class 2 wildlife rehabilitator, which means I can now have assistants under me that we train. So that's very helpful, because more hands means more animals that can be cared for.
And what will you be doing with this grant money that you were awarded?
Oh, we are so excited. The timing is amazing. So one of the certificates you can get is to become what's called a rabies vector species, which means I could care for raccoons, skunks, and bats. It's a process, but part of the process is that I have to have specific cages to be able to ensure, their safety and the safety of our community. And so I'm at that step where I need to get the cages, so this grant money is like a huge blessing. I've already been price shopping for our cages, and that's what it will be used for.
Well, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon.
Thank
Congratulations
you.
again. I'll get some more specific details to you now. For the Love of Finn is a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping wildlife through rescuing and rehabilitating debilitated and orphaned or displaced animals until they are ready for release back into the world. In 2021, For the Love of Finn was able to assist 190 animals, which included 8 different species. The organization is also committed to providing public education to focus on how humans can safely and peacefully coexist with native wildlife and the importance of the wildlife to man and the environment. To get in contact with For the Love of Finn, you can visit the website or Facebook page that's provided. And for more on previous Southern Tier Tuesdays grant recipients, be sure to check out Southern Tier Tuesdays on Facebook, Instagram, and